Hi, third graders. My name is Catherine, and today we are going to continue our case study of China by looking at China's geography. So the objective of our lesson today is to use maps and other tools to explore China's geography and its location. Let's start by looking at a physiographic map. A physiographic map shows the physical features of a country, such as mountain ranges, deserts, and rivers. Let's look carefully at the China physiography map, and we're going to complete the See, Think, Wonder graphic organizer together. So take a moment and carefully observe all of the different parts of this map. What do you see? I'm going to share what I see. So I see that there's a legend or a key that shows different symbols. For example, a star where the national capitals are, a green triangle where historic or cultural sites are, a squiggly line where the Great Wall of China is. And then on the map, I see, using one of those symbols, that Beijing is the national capital of China. I see many mountains in China. For example, Mount Everest and the Hendeng Shan mountain range over here. I also see many rivers. I see deserts, especially up here by this other country, Mongolia. Now that we've observed the map, what do you think? There's some things that I think. For one, I think China is humongous. I mean, this is a really, really big country. And I think that there are many, many different types of physical features, landforms, and waterways in this country. And that made me wonder, I wonder what impact all the different physical features of China had on where people choose to live. It also made me wonder, where did people choose to live first? Where were the first settlers? And why did they choose those areas? Did it have anything to do with the physical features of China? Now, remember, lines of latitude measure the distance from the equator and go east to west, kind of like rungs on a ladder. Since China is north of the equator, it's in the northern hemisphere. The lines of longitude measure the distance from the prime meridian and run north to south. Since China is east of the prime meridian, it's in the eastern hemisphere. Now let's see if we can figure out China's location using lines of latitude and longitude. Now, if you're looking at this map on your own screen, you might want to zoom in or click present so you can see exactly the degrees of longitude and latitude. When I looked carefully, I saw that China's location is approximately 40 degrees north and 100 degrees east, or 40 degrees north, 100 degrees east. Sometimes that's written in parentheses. Let's see if we can find the approximate location of China's capital, Beijing. Well, when I looked at the lines of longitude and latitude, I saw that China's capital, Beijing, is approximately 40 degrees north and 116 degrees east. You might remember from an earlier unit in social studies that lines of latitude and longitude help us describe location. So we were able to just describe the location of China and China's capital. Now, using this physiography map, let's answer some questions together. On which continent is China? And with how many countries does China share borders? Which countries? We're also going to describe the location of these borders using relative location, another concept in geography that we learned a little earlier in the year. Well, China is on the continent of Asia, and it shares borders with 14 countries. The eastern border of China is shared with North Korea. The southern border of China is shared with Vietnam, Laos, Burma, Bhutan, India, and Nepal. The southwestern border is shared with Pakistan. The western border of China is shared with Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. The northern border of China is shared with Mongolia. and the northeastern border is shared with Russia and North Korea. Now, what about sea borders? Where does China have sea borders? What seas border the country? Well, the Yellow Sea and the East China Sea border China to the east, and the South China Sea borders China to the southeast. Now that we know a little bit more about where China is in location with countries and other seas, we're going to start thinking about where the earliest inhabitants of China might have settled. Now, settlements can take the form of a town or a village or even a city. And when agricultural civilizations settle, they stay and live in one specific area, as opposed to hunter-gatherers who are nomadic or people who move around as they search for food and resources. So thinking about the different movement of people, where do you think the earliest inhabitants of China settled and why? Here's one thought. I think that the earliest inhabitants of China might have settled near the East China Sea. I think this because access to water is important for survival. So it makes sense that maybe they'd be close. In my opinion, with my claim, I think that they might have settled near water. Now, what are some geographic features and locations that would support or discourage settlement? Well, geographic features such as mountains could have discouraged settlement because they're difficult to travel through. So if people are moving from hunting and gathering and traveling all over and settling in one place, they probably traveled in an easier route and not through a bunch of mountains, which can be hard to travel through. That's one claim that I have, one idea that I have. What are your ideas? Lastly, let's think about what part of China would be most challenging for travel. I believe that the area in China near Mongolia would be the most challenging area to travel in because there are 2 deserts there. And I know that deserts are hot. There's not always the greatest access to water in the desert. And there might not be a lot of shade because of the plant life in deserts. So that could have been a pretty big challenge to travel through. I wonder what you think. Let's talk about your job for today. Today, you're going to look at other maps that'll help you learn more about the geography of China. Let's go over 2 important vocabulary terms that you'll need to know for the next portion of this lesson. One is inhabitants, and I used this word already. Inhabitants are a group of people who live in a place. So we are inhabitants of New York City. To settle means to live in a place permanently or stay in one place for a long time. So when we were talking about the earliest settlements, that's a place where people moved or chose to live permanently or for a really, really long time. Your independent work for today is to review these 2 new maps, China, mountains and deserts, and China rivers. And you're going to answer some guiding questions. And when you're answering these questions, you're going to be stating your opinion. And I'd like you to include a reasoned argument behind it, sort of how I modeled just now when I was explaining why I thought certain places might be challenging to travel through, or I might think that the earliest inhabitants settled. I gave my claim, my idea, or my opinion, and then some reasoning behind it. And I also want to make sure that your responses are in complete or in full sentences. I'm going to communicate your ideas as clearly as possible. So here's the first map, mountains and deserts. We've got 3 questions to answer. And anytime you see these blue boxes with the pencil, that means you should respond and write your answer there. So look at the legend of this map. How do the words help you better understand the map? What part of China would be best for traveling by camel? What part of China would be best for traveling on foot? Why? Make your claim and then try to back it up with a good argument. Next, you're going to look at China rivers. And this map shows where the rivers are in China. Here are your questions to answer on your own. The first one says, waterways have been very important in Chinese history. Can you tell why? Based on this map, where might you find rich soil for farming in northern, southern, eastern, or western China? And think why. And lastly, what do you notice about the direction of the three major rivers in China? What advantages and challenges does this present for travel? Lastly, you have a wrap-up question. Based on all of the maps that we've looked at in the class or in this video together and on your own, where do you think the earliest inhabitants of China first settled? Why? And again, now I've said it a few times, but I want to make sure you're using evidence from the maps to support your opinion. So you're making a really reasoned argument. Finally, you're going to turn everything in, submit your independent work so we can see what you understood about the geography of China. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.